right, away we go. Hi, everyone. Greetings, welcome. I'll stand in front of the camera for the folks at home, and I'll bring my notes for myself. All right. Hi, thanks for coming, everyone. My name is Tim Ellis. I'm on the board of Mimico Residents Association. We are one of the hosts tonight. As I said, we are recording on the webinar, so this will be available later. In case you missed anything or couldn't make it tonight, you know someone who wanted to come. Alex Cameron, who is one of our fellow board members, is hosting the tech over there. And he was recently exposed to COVID, so couldn't make it tonight. So I am standing in to MC, and he's going to handle the tech side. Alex, you want to go ahead and describe the Zoom functions for folks who are joining us online?
Hi, everybody. My name's Alex. Thanks for coming out tonight. What we've done is this is a Zoom webinar, which is a little bit different than a Zoom meeting. What we've done is disable the chat function, so you can't chat, but you can ask questions. And how we're going to pick which questions we ask the panelists is by the ones that have the most upvotes. So as well as typing in a question into the Q&A box, don't forget to look at other questions that are already there and upvote the ones that you like. The way the in-person questions are going to be handled is by Tim. And that's going to basically boil down to Tim is going to hand the mic to the person that looks like they've got a good question. And that's really it for me. So next I'd like to ask the president of the Mimico Residents Association to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roji Nasrani. I'm the president of the Mimico Residents Association, which is the organization that is sponsoring this event. Thank you all for your attendance. I will start with a land acknowledgement first. The name Etobicoke originates with the Mississauga First Nation, who called Etobicoke Creek and the area around it Wadobigoke, meaning where the alders grow. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. This workshop is supported and funded by the City of Toronto through Live Green Toronto and the Neighborhood Climate Action Champions Program. Our local champion is Marianne Boychev. Thank you to Tim Ellis and Alex Cameron, who are both members of the Mimico Residents Association Board of Directors and who've really championed and organized this event, along with Marianne. I would also like to extend my gratitude to Councillor Morley's office, MP James Maloney's office, and MPP Christine Hogarth's office for their attendance and their contribution to this event, as well as their respective staff. I want to say a few quick words about the Mimico Residents Association before we begin the event. We are your local community organization. Our mission is to represent and advocate for Mimico residents, help foster a greater sense of community here in Mimico, and support things that really enhance the quality of life here in this community. And we do that through fun local events such as this one. We advocate for local community issues. We monitor developments in the area. We work directly with our elected representatives, and we connect directly with community members. So I will also say the Mimico Resident Association is entirely volunteer run and member funded. So if you live in Mimico or know anyone that does, we really do encourage you to join as a paid member. It's only $1 a month, so $12 a year. But it really powers the work that we do. So if you want to find out more about us, on the screen there's our website and our social media, so check us out on there. But other than that, thank you again for being here, both folks online and in person, and really excited to kick off this event. So I will pass it back to Tim. Thank you.
Sure, yeah. Thank you, Rogine. Thanks for your work. Rogine's committed us. She said we do fun events. I didn't know we had to make this fun, but I'll do my best. So thanks again for joining us. So the work we're doing here is designed to address the climate crisis and also make your life more affordable, because the climate crisis is making life harder and more expensive for us. So we think it's important to have these bottom-up conversations. The folks in government are doing their part. Could we do more? We could, but it also is going to take all of us, right? So it's important for us to do our part too. And that's what we're trying to do today. So our focus is on what kind of information and funding is available from the government to support our local grassroots bottom-up actions. Since that is local as the focus, we're going to start with our local representative here. Then we'll hear from the province and then the federal government. So it is my great pleasure to introduce our councillor, Councillor Amber Morley.
Thank you so much, Tim, and good evening, everyone. Am I in the, well, I've got a little bit of technical difficulty there, but hopefully you can see me. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out, and a big thanks to the Mimico Residents Association for your leadership, as always, on important files that impact our neighborhood. As was mentioned, my name is Amber Morley. I am your city councillor. I'm also deputy mayor for Etobicoke, and I'm a very proud member of a number of different committees. But the ones I would say relevant to this work would be the Infrastructure and Environment Committee of the City of Toronto, as well as of the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, including the executive, as well as the Watershed Alliance. So we're very busy, we're very active, and we're working very hard to be a strong voice and a strong advocate for the necessary climate action to address the crisis that we all know and acknowledge that we are in. So as Tim mentioned, it's going to take all of us, and the City of Toronto is proud to be a leader in this space. We do have a number of programs and services that are available to you. We've shared a detailed list with MRA, and I'm sure they'll make that available to you as well. And we're really glad, I believe we have representation here this evening online from Live Green Toronto, which is essentially the arm of the City of Toronto that is all things green and sustainable. So we'll get hopefully more information from them this evening about the specific programs and incentives that you all are able to tap into to help make sure that any retrofitting is more affordable, more accessible, and something that you can realize in your own homes and communities. So under former Mayor John Tory, there was an initiative called Better Homes TO that was launched back in 2019. There is, as always, a robust information available on the toronto.ca website related to all things government, community, meetings and committees that is always at your fingertips. We are also a leader in open data, so there's lots of information available online. But there are, again, as I mentioned, a number of rebates and incentive programs that the City of Toronto is really proud to offer, including a home energy loan program and a number of different pieces around eco roofs, incentive programs, and others. I am a renter. I live in a building, so I'm not necessarily the expert in this area. And again, we do have some folks joining us today who could speak more specifically to the details related to those programs. And as always, my incredible professional staff team are available to all of you to take your calls, to respond to your emails, and to provide information to help you navigate all of the various information and opportunities that are out there and that exist. We also have a solar TO program, which you can go online and essentially assess, like put in some information and assess the feasibility of installing solar roofs on your particular property. So that's a pretty cool tool to check out if it's something that's you're considering related to solar panels. And then the other thing I would just flag is, the City of Toronto has a Transform TO initiative that was launched a number of years back, and it really does speak to the vision and destination that we have to be a climate-friendly, sustainable city. We've got green standards, green building standards, for example, that all new buildings need to adhere to. So that takes into consideration things like the different materials that are being used and what has the least impact on the environment. So green roofs, as I mentioned, is another big and important thing that not only we encourage through our green initiative of building standards, but that we also try to employ in all of our city facilities wherever possible. The last thing I'll just flag before I turn it over to my colleague or my counterparts here is how we're leading the way by example within our own city facilities. So there was a recent article by the Globe and Mail that covered the new Etobicoke Civic Center that the city is investing $600 million in the northern part of our ward, right at the 6 Points intersection, which has been a long-standing, over 30 years of work to reimagine and redesign that whole entire neighborhood. And it's been quite a desert for community services, libraries, et cetera, for many decades. So we're very proud, very excited about getting that particular facility online. Again, it'll be the replacement for the old Civic Center, which is currently at 399 West Mall. And as part of that, there will be a full service community center. So we'll have a library, our 101st Toronto Public Library will be there at the Civic Center. There will be a gym, a pool, all of the good things that will be available to all of the members of our community, as well as outdoor spaces for community events and things of that nature. We're also really proud. And we know it's been a pain point. We hear about this pain point, and we are actively engaged in some of the challenges related to our Complete Streets implementation. But I will highlight that Complete Streets are a really important part of our climate goals and initiatives as a city, and how we think about the next number of generations, how they'll navigate the city, how they'll get around, and doing that in a safe and sustainable way is really important kind of action for us to take today as our planet is on fire, and to ensure that we get to a better place tomorrow. So really appreciate folks' ongoing engagement. The last time I was here, we were talking Mimico Mobility Hub, and that report is going to be coming to Community Council, I believe, in April. And we've worked closely with some residents from Superior Avenue, some I see here this evening, on making some upgrades and changes to that stretch of the mobility plan. And we're really proud and happy to move some of those changes forward a couple days ago at Infrastructure and Environment Committee. So thank you all so much for being present here tonight, for your engagement on this issue. As Tim said, it's going to take all of us to really see a substantial change and walking in a good direction as it relates to protecting our planet, and glad to be leading on this work with all of you. So with that, I will turn it back over to Tim, and happy to answer any questions when we get to that portion.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate it. Cool. I assume you're all taking copious notes, but just in case you are not, we are recording all of the programs into a resources page. There's flyers around with the link on it, so you can take that home. We'll have that on our website, constantly updated as we learn more. So these programs will be available to you and all kind of in a single central clearinghouse for you going forward. So we'd like to turn it over now to Spencer, representing MPP Christine Hogarth.
Hey everybody, it's good to be here. Unfortunately, Christine had to send me. She has a few other things she's doing. It's a busy week in the Ontario Legislature, so I'm happy to be here with you guys in Mimico. I'm not from Etobicoke. I'm from the beaches, but I feel like a very similar vibe with the beaches in Etobicoke have. So good to be here on the west end of Toronto. So thank you. I know it's an important workshop, and I'm glad that everyone's here face to face. It's good to have that face to face communication. And I know, Tim, we have sent you a few sort of initiatives that the Ontario government's doing when it comes to affordability. We are living in an affordability crisis. I think we can all agree. All three levels of government can agree on that. I'm here to answer any questions, direct you to any resources I can. We have a few initiatives for homeowners as well as business owners as well for retrofitting, but homeowners as well, including the energy affordability program we launched under the independent electricity system operator. Most of the resources can be found on saveonenergy.ca, and there's a lot of great resources there when it comes to applying for retrofitting your own home. So, free efficient appliances, insulation, draft proofing, energy saving kits as well. We also work in tandem with Enbridge Gas. They have a great program as well when it comes to free thermostats for eligible homes. So if you're looking for a smart thermostat to apply to the Peak Perks program, which is also offered by the independent electricity system operator, then that's great as well, because it saves you money. And at the end of the day, affordability is front of mind for most, I think, if for everybody in this room. So happy to be here, happy to take any questions. And if you have specific questions that I can answer, then fire away. But otherwise, I'll direct you to the right resources. The Constit office, we're plugged in to basically every ministry. So if there's any questions for specific ministries, reach out to our office, and we'll direct you in the right way. We'll get you an answer. So thanks. Great.
Thanks, Spencer. Appreciate it. And I want to give a shout out to you, Spencer, because I know you just started recently. So I think we was talking to someone else before, and then like a week ago, Spencer's like, "Do I have to do this event?" Yeah, you do. So thanks for jumping in and stepping into that so quickly. Great, and I'd love now to introduce our third and final speaker, our MP James Maloney, and also wish you a very happy Irish Cultural Appreciation Month. Thanks for doing that. Cheers.
Well, you won me over with that one, Tim. I got to tell you, you know the right buttons to push. Look, let me first of all just say, it's great to be at an event where I'm in a room full of people who are supportive of the initiatives that governments are taking to protect the environment. Because I find I spend way too much time now with people who are sort of pushing back for political purposes, and it's very troubling. And I think that's a message that I want to deliver right off the bat is fighting climate change is everybody realizes a priority. Not everybody is willing to make a commitment to fight, doing what's necessary to try to slow it down or stop it. And that's the biggest challenge we face as a society, and that's the biggest challenge we face as governments. Because look, I can't turn on the radio now. I can't look across the aisle in the House of Commons. I can't go anywhere now without, hearing opposition to what we're doing. And I'll address, the elephant in the room. It's not, carbon pricing. Now, if I'm going to talk about federal government, our biggest initiative in fighting climate change, the one that everybody is most familiar with, is the carbon pricing mechanism. It was introduced by the Prime Minister. It was announced by the Prime Minister in 2017. I remember it very well. I was sitting in the House of Commons. He came in and announced, and he made this announcement. And if you think about what's progress has been made since then, that was 2016. We fought another election in 2019 on a platform of supporting carbon pricing. We fought another election in 2021 on a platform of supporting carbon pricing. There's been no secret, there's been no mystery, there's been nothing, no surprises from the federal government in terms of where we're going on that initiative. The only thing that's surprising is that there's been a change in position by some of the other parties, because in 2021 election campaign, all the parties ran on a carbon pricing platform. But now, because it's political expedient, you're hearing all of this opposition. What I would encourage you to do is take a look at the numbers. That there's an article, I think it was in the Toronto Star or one of the newspapers yesterday or the day before, about the real effects of carbon pricing and the real cost of carbon pricing and the real impact of carbon pricing. And there's 200 economists who are far smarter than me, who can look at how these programs work and the impact they have and how they play out financially, and they all agree that it is good policy. Now, I'll leave that issue for now, because I'm sure there'll be some questions on that. But it's a policy piece that our government is proud of. It's one that I'm very proud of, and it's one that I will defend as long as I have the privilege of holding this office in Etobicoke Lakeshore. But enough on that. In fact, I wasn't even planning to talk about that. I just got off on a tangent, so sorry about that. It's just I was listening to the radio on the way down, and I couldn't help myself. Look, one of our number one pillars as a government is fighting climate change, and there's a number of different ways we can do it. There are programs available to loan money to you, you can convert your heating system in your house to a heat pump, which is going to lower your emissions. There's all kinds of green building programs available through the federal government, whether it's commercial building or residential building, which can help do some retrofits in your help that are going to save you on your energy costs. These are the type of things that we need to be doing and moving forward, because I don't want to be making announcements anymore about having to, spend money remediating the shore of Lake Ontario and Etobicoke Lakeshore because of climate change. It's unfortunate that we're having to spend tens of millions of dollars year after year, trying to shore up our shoreline so that the rising water levels and these extreme weather events that we have are damaging our beautiful waterfront. So we need to take steps to do it, but it's not something we can just pay lip service to either. And that's why these discussions are so important. Amber and I were at an event around December, early January, you were there, it was a Etobicoke Climate Action, I believe, Tim. It's having a very similar discussion to what we're talking about tonight. Sort of high level discussion on climate change, what steps need to be done. I could go through a whole list of programs that the federal government offers. I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm going to give you sort of the high level talking points. I will happily, and those of you who are online, I know this is recorded, reach out to my office. We can not only let you know what the programs are, but we can tell you how you apply for them, what you need to do to qualify for them, when the deadlines are, and what your options are, because we need to do this, ladies and gentlemen. It's not easy. It's not always going to be pain-free, but it's the challenge of our lifetime right now, climate change, and we have to do whatever is necessary to fight it. So I'll keep my comments general, but I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Look, I've been the member of parliament here for 8.5 years. This has been a priority since the day I was elected, and will be a priority until the day I'm no longer the member of parliament here. So thanks, Tim.
Thanks so much, James. Appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Great. We'll switch over to questions. Before I do, I want to reiterate, we're going to have the resources in a nice document on the website for you. We didn't want to print off some paper that would be immediately out of date. Kind of environmentalist would we be? Just printing a bunch of paper to throw out. So we'll have that on the website. And I'm really glad that there is so much interest in this here in Mimico, which I love Mimico. It's great. It is, sorry, everyone else, it's the best part of the city. And it's great. And so we got to take care of it. I'm not like an environmentalist, like naturally. I grew up in the country, and like as soon as I was 18, I got out. I'm a city guy. I don't love nature, but I live in the environment. So it's important to me we take care of it, because that's my home. And so I'm glad we're here doing this to take care of it for ourselves and for our kids. I got a 5-month-old. You're lucky I don't have pictures of him there. I put pictures of him everywhere else. But so I'm going to open up for questions now. Sandy, you want to start with the online?
Sounds good, Tim. We've got one question from online from Dave Knight. How are you supporting solar grid connectivity? I think maybe start with Councillor Morley on what the city is doing to support that. And Tim, you're frozen. Did you get me?
We got you, Alex. Hopefully you can hear us.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Video's frozen, but I can hear you.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
I will do everyone a favor. It's been a long day. And I don't have too many details specific to this. And I just wanted to confirm, do we have someone from Live Green on the line? Marianne's on the line. So Marianne, at any time, if you have information to share, more detailed than I'm able to offer related to the question specific to City of Toronto green initiatives, please do feel free to jump in and help me out here. But my understanding, and sorry, Alex, can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, the question was, how are you supporting solar grid connectivity?
So this is actually not something that falls in our purview per se, as we do not distribute or manage the grid, the electric grid. It's a provincial responsibility. But we are working at the City of Toronto directly with Toronto Hydro to ensure that, I mentioned off the top, there's a solar TO program, which allows residents to evaluate their particular properties to understand how feasible the implementation of solar panels are on their particular property. And that's the extent of my sort of proximity to this particular issue, but I would defer to my colleagues or my counterparts here at the province to speak more to this.
Spencer, you want to? Also, thanks.
So I believe I heard solar grid productivity, so connectivity. Okay. Well, I would be, I wonder where that question is kind of coming from. I urge you to reach out to us. I'll get back to you on that. Christine's office will get back to you on that. Now I do know that, you know, in terms of solar, there's a lot of ways that we can attack this affordability crisis when it comes to energy. Solar is obviously one of those ways. When it comes to these alternative solutions, I think we also have to look at, you know, using multiple alternative solutions. So solar is definitely one of those ways that we can do that. I don't know the efficiency rate, but when it comes to the connectivity into the grid, I wouldn't know, but I'll definitely get back to you on that. It's a good question, and it probably comes from a very good place. So thanks.
Thanks, Spencer. I will add also for, I think it was David who asked that. Oh, go ahead, Jamie.
For those of you who might not be aware of it, there's a great app that you can get on your phone. It's called Grid Watch. And I look at it all the time, particularly in discussions like this. And what it does is if you open it, it tells you in real time what the source of our electricity is in Ontario. So right now, to our point, take a guess what percentage of our electricity is being generated by solar in Ontario right now. Anybody? 10? You're all wrong. 1.3%. 1.3%. It's 44.7% nuclear, 26.5 hydro, 14.2% wind, 13% gas, 1.3% solar, and 0.3% biofuel. It's a valuable tool. I would encourage you to download this app because it comes up in conversation all the time. So I'm still not sure whether the question was, do we support connectivity or productivity for solar power? The answer to both would be yes, frankly. We have a number of federal programs. Recently, I just made an announcement this past week on a building that's part of the Irish community. Is probably what Tim was talking about. As part of the Green and Inclusive Fund, ironically, because it was the Irish community. But it's funding available to people who are retrofitting buildings, but it includes methods that are available to make the building more efficient and energy efficient. You know, so for example, if you had solar panels on your roof, that would help you qualify for these grants. That's the type of thing. So we're not targeting specific energy sectors. What we're doing is encouraging people to use clean energy, regardless of whether it's solar or wind or nuclear or whatever the case may be.
Thank you. I just wanted to jump on. Thanks to Tanisha for my notes here. Teamwork makes the dream work, guys. So just wanted to touch on how City of Toronto is supporting the connectivity for the solar piece. There's a net metering program. So grid-tied solar systems in Toronto participate in the net metering program, which is offered by Toronto Hydro, which is run by an independent board, but the City of Toronto is like the sole, I don't know if shareholder is the right word, but it's not exactly a City of Toronto corporation, but it is directly connected to us and has an independent board. But it is Toronto Hydro program called net metering. And when your solar panels produce more electricity than you need, the net metering program allows you to send excess electricity to the grid in exchange for a credit on your monthly bill. Excess generation credits can be carried forward for a consecutive 12-month period to offset future electricity costs. Most buildings will produce excess electricity in the summer months and use more electricity from the grid in the winter. You can draw from the extra credits generated in the summer months at night and during the winter months when you need them. So hopefully that's a relevant piece of information. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Councillor. That's actually what I was going to add, so appreciate that. You got it. Great. I see one more question here from the Q&A, Sandy. I'm just going to read it out unless you want to. Why don't you go ahead and do it? I want to take your job.
Okay, is there a hydro support program for nonprofit and charitable organizations such as LAMP Health Center, long-term care homes and hospices in Etobicoke and in general?
Who wants it? Short answer from Councillor Morley was not that she knows of. And they'll look into it. Anyone else want to take a stab at this? Provincial program, Spencer, you got it? All right, Spencer is committed to taking a look at it. It sounds like it's going to be a provincial. It's a good question. So Spencer, you can follow up with us on that, and we'll post that on the resources page on our website. So Jonathan, we'll put that on the site. Thanks. Good question. Go ahead, Sandy.
Is there a hydro support program? Oops, sorry, duplicating myself. The federal government stopped offering subsidies for home energy retrofits in February. Why, given the urgency to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from our buildings?
It stopped. It's not necessarily permanent. I'm glad you brought that back up because on the solar piece, there was a $5,000 solar rebate for residential retrofits. The program's closed at the end of February because it was oversubscribed. That's the honest answer. There was so much demand for it that they had to shut it down. It doesn't mean that the program's gone forever. It shows what it does show is it shows the programs work. It shows there's an appetite for this type of activity. So whenever we have programs like this and they end up having to being oversubscribed and closing down early, it inevitably leads to the discussion in our caucus. Okay, how do we get this back up and running again? And that's the stage we're at right now. So the short answer was oversubscribed, but it just shows the enthusiasm. I fully support it, and I'm one of the voices saying, you know, we got to find a way to fund this thing again to get it back on string.
And that's it for open questions online.
Sorry, Sandy, there's a question in person, and thank you for saying it because we should put the mic in front of them so that online people can hear. I'll bring the mic to you, but we're going to switch to in-person questions anyway, so you can go first.
Hear you online.
I know we could be online.
I just thought since James was up there, I heard that the federal program for electric and hybrid cars is ending next year. Are they going to extend that?
I'm not the finance minister. I can't, but look, I would think so. I mean, these programs are, you know, they're proving to work. I would, yes. We all know what that means. I make that mistake all the time. Yeah. Let me just put it this way. Successful programs get a lot of support from people who want to continue them and extend them, especially when they're effective. You know, I mean, we have zero vehicle mandates coming in 2030 and a number of other initiatives you're all very familiar with. Or, sorry, 35, yeah. Yes, 035. I mean, we've worked with the province. Fairness, you know, we put money into the battery PV plants in Windsor and St. Thomas, you know, so right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, keep in mind that every program that's introduced is not, here's a lifetime program, right? Every program has a duration, if for no other reason, for budgeting purposes. So when these programs, and sometimes they don't always work, right? So sometimes you don't want to continue. So rather than saying we're going to end this program because it's not working, you put a shelf life on it, and then if it is working, you find ways to continue to reintroduce it. So do I have a definitive answer on that? As I said, I'm not the finance minister. And if I said we were going to do that, I'd get in big trouble, especially this thing's being recorded, and I don't want to get in trouble with the finance minister because I'm always asking her for stuff. So.
Thank you, James. Great. We're going to switch to in-person questions. If you have a question, just so that online folks can hear you, please speak in the mic. So I'll bring it as close as I can to you with the cord. So if you have questions, go ahead, raise your hands, and we'll bring it around. Wow, you're all fully satisfied with the excellent information that's been provided. You got another one? Yeah. Since you got three, that's great. Since you just asked, I will make sure no one else has one, but yeah, for sure. Anyone else got one? Because you already got one, but no? Great.
So when you said about the city hall moving down, so 15 years ago, I was in Jamaica and I sat at a dinner with the head of the Y. And then we got the pair games. So there was supposed to go a Y with that city hall. And instead it went down to Cherry Street. But what I heard from him was, don't worry, eventually we're getting a Y in the West End and not just at College, because they renovated that recently. So are we getting, and is that city hall going to be a green building?
Thank you for the question. I actually, many moons ago, worked in then Councillor Peter Milchin's office when he was a representative for that area. And I remember having a meeting with Peter and the representative from the Y at the time. And so I recall they had like a 10 centers over 10-year program, and 6 Points was one of, we were supposed to get it. That's right. And so also, as I mentioned, the Etobicoke Civic Center is a green building, and there's some really unique technology that's being employed where there's, oh my gosh, and I'm totally blanking on the actual terminology, but it's like the heating and cooling is from the ground. So it's a geothermal. Thank you very much. Yeah, I should know these things. But yeah, so that is being employed with the thing. They've already started digging, and we've got a contractor. All accessible, of course. It is provincial regulation, the AODA compliance. And so, of course, city is a leader in that area. With respect to the why, I'm not aware of and have not had any engagements with them related to any potential new centers in our ward. But what I will also offer is that we did a lot of work as part of the 20-year master plan for Parks, Forestry, and Recreation to identify a Etobicoke Center as an area of need for a full-service community center. And it is part of the reason why we're getting the $600 million investment from the city. And it'll be a full-service gym, Parks and Recreation, like, right, pool and the rest of it. So that area will be covered for a full-service community center. And again, as I say, I guess there's no longer a need for the Y specifically in that area, but we haven't had any engagement. Well, we can make an effort to reach out and just see if they have any plans for expansion in our ward that are still percolating or somewhere on a shelf. So I'll take that back. Thank you so much. Great question. I'll stay here just for me.
On Superior and on the lake shore near Mimico Avenue, the wheel trans poles. And I have been after for many years that we get a wheel trans community bus in South Etobicoke, since we have the largest percentage of seniors in Etobicoke. We have one north due to the councillor up there. We have one west part going west. Are we getting a wheel trans community bus for the seniors in the area?
Another great question and an important initiative. There's been a lot of transformational stuff happening at Wheel Trans. I've not been made aware of plans for when to come to us. So it's another thing, Tanisha, from my team who's That's a good question. So we'll take it back. There's nothing on your radar, right? That yeah, and me neither. So if you're not already, I've been plugging my newsletter a lot lately. I'm getting better at that. But if you're not already subscribed to our newsletter, I do encourage you to subscribe. We try to share, relevant, timely information for folks, including updates like that. But we'll take that back. We'll get confirmation one way or the other, and we'll share with Tim. And it's certainly something I'm happy to advocate. We do. Absolutely. An accessible community bus. Yes, for sure. Thank you so much. We'll take it back and we'll hopefully have some information to share with the group and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Mike, you got a question? Oh, and then we'll go to you.
Yeah, thank you. I used to be a small-time contractor, and I watched these incentives come in back in the day. And I remember watching the backflow preventer incentives come in years ago. And I watched the backflow preventers that we were putting in with our plumbers that were costing about $500-600 go overnight to $1,200 because an incentive came in from the city to do a $1,200 preventer. I know that plumbers were consulted, but I wonder when we're doing these incentives and we're looking either across the country or just within the province, is there anything in place to protect the consumer, to protect the public from the contractor side or from the middleman side of immediately taking advantage of these incentives, whether it's electric vehicles, solar, these heat pumps? One of the big arguments that I'm sure you're hearing all the time is they're overpriced. Well, you can guarantee they're inflated because a large portion, not all of it, but a large portion of the business that is selling these things back to us, the consumer, is jacking up the prices. And I think it has a portion to do with some of the pushback that we see because, there's if you look at the cost of the body of a furnace, whether it's a heat pump or a brand new natural gas furnace, for example, natural gas furnace, if you go to a supplier and you're a contractor and you buy one, they're around $1,000. And you go and you get one installed and the price could be $5,000-10,000. Well, you look at these heat pumps, the numbers don't necessarily make sense to the consumer, and I don't think that's because they don't make sense behind the scenes. It's somewhere in the middle, they're getting inflated. How do we stop that? What are you guys doing to maybe help us out with that?
I love that question, actually. Cause you're right. Like, I mean, we're encouraging people to convert to heat pumps. I'm trying to get one in my house right now. The challenge I've run into is, and I've talked to my neighbor about this who did it, that they're really expensive and they're hard to get. And it's because, for the reasons you've outlined. Look, I mean, incentivizing change or behavior, whether it's, the backflow issue or thermostats or heat pumps, whatever it is, it does two things. It puts the product in big demand, and then it incentivizes people to go out there and take advantage of it. And unless it's being monitored closely to stop that, you're right. There's going to be instances where it's people are not getting a fair price that they would have otherwise. And it's I mean, it's a good question. I'm hesitating because the answer to your question, as far as there isn't any mechanism in place that I'm aware of to stop what you're talking about. There should be though, because we're moving into a future where there's going to be more and more incentives to change behavior. I mean, look at the EV mandate is coming in at 2035. We're going to get to a point in 29, 2030, 2031. People, I've never bought a new car in my life. Every car I've ever bought has been used. But, in 2033, there isn't going to be a lot of used electric vehicles out there. So you're going to get into all kinds, and that's just one example where you're going to get into a situation where people are taking advantage of the situation. So this is a very long-winded way of saying, good idea. I'm going to take that back and find a way to sort of build that into some of these programs, because you're right. Because if you want to incentivize people, you have to protect them at the same time. Well, okay, you know what? No, but seriously, send me the ideas, please, because you're on the ground. You're the guy out there doing it. So tell me the ideas. We're politicians. We steal all the ideas all the time. But honestly, like if you do have ideas, and I'm 100% serious, pass them along. So I'd love to hear them because it's important.
Right. Thanks. Thanks, James. Great. Thank you for that question, Mike. So I'll come over to you. I do want to note there's a comment here from Michelle. It says homeowners can get support for a clean energy retrofit. EnergyNeighbor.ca helps with tech info, navigating rebates and loans, and vetted contractors. And they've helped homeowners in Mimico and in Toronto get heat pumps, get solar and electricity. So they were suggesting that website. Come over to you.
Hi. We're in a peculiar position because we don't have control over our own energy efficiency because we are tenants. But my specific question is, have you heard or is anything started on the regulation or monitoring of some of these things like heat pumps? And I am so confused, I can't tell you, because we live in a large complex that includes historic buildings to walk-ups. And we have units hanging on the walls of some of the houses. We have units that have been placed outside and abutting some of the walk-up building. And they're not operating very well. I mean, they may do a job, but at the expense of the sanity of the people living adjacent to them. I asked about heat pumps specifically, but I'm not even sure if it's the heat pump that's hanging on the wall. It does the same thing. It gives you air conditioning in the winter, in the summer, and heat pump. But I'm looking for some sort of an oversight of it, because when we get our information, talk directly to the trade. It is the largest landlord in the country. It is the largest landlord in the country. I do apologize. So it's easier to get the information from the grassroots. And they're just saying if they'd stop buying junk, we wouldn't be having any of these problems. Like we had one of the units that hang on the wall, 3 years old, the motherboard blew. That left the resident with nothing at 14 below zero. Had to move out, go into hotel, not knowing if she would be able to pay, and so on. So that's what I'm looking for, some sort of a And by the way, sorry. Just to answer part of your question about when the EV sponsorships, whatever you want to call it, are up. The whole idea of that, recently somebody was discussing, they said it was to kickstart the industry, to get people going at these very, very expensive units. And more recently, someone was quoted that now that the prices are coming down very rapidly, it may, maybe not stopped, but reduced.
You on it? Yeah, all right. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jason.
Look, I can sort of give some general comments. I mean, what you're really talking about is from a renter's perspective, is a landlord and tenant issue, and you're into a problem there where not all landlords are good landlords, and not all landlords are interested in spending as much money as they could to make things run properly or efficiently. I'm trying to be very, yeah, I understand the question. I'm conscious of the fact that this thing's being recorded. I don't want somebody out there threatening to sue me. Yeah, but look, that's a reality. I mean, and there are jurisdictional lanes that all three levels of government have to stay in. Although those lines get blurred sometimes. And, you know, yesterday, for example, the federal government announced that we're going to be coming out with a tenants' bill of rights and some other incentives to protect renters. Amber and I were just talking about it. The immediate pushback is people are saying, you can't do that. That's provincial jurisdiction. There's truth to that. I mean, landlord and tenant issues are provincial jurisdiction, but there are areas where federal government can sort of nudge their way in to incentivize and protect people in a way that doesn't cross those constitutional boundary lines. But to your point, I mean, look, if you've got a landlord of the type that you've described who has multiple units or a big building, and you want them to retrofit the place so that it has a heat pump or cleaner energy, you've got to find a way to police it so that it's done efficiently and effectively, so that the tenant's rights are protected, and it's not going to be a short-term fix to comply with whatever rules are in place. But again, those are issues that are sort of outside of my boundary lines, if I can put it that way. And I don't like getting into that, but those are the facts. So.
I got a quick couple 1-star from my notes here on the website at the City of Toronto. And again, always encourage folks to check it out. There's so much information and things available there. But as part of our environmental grants, incentives, and resources for building owners, there's a couple different programs that might be relevant and we're sharing with property management or the landowners. So Better Buildings Navigation and Support Services is a service that helps building owners, operators, and property managers navigate the process of improving energy efficiency of their buildings. So again, whether it's whatever that might look like, if it's buying good quality units in bulk for the thing and getting some financing to support that kind of an investment. And then there's also the energy retrofit loans, which is again, all buildings in Toronto, which can apply for a low interest loan to fund energy retrofits. And then finally, specific to buildings, again, there's a number of things on here for residential, homes rather, residentials, and then high-rise retrofit improvement support program. So the high-rise retrofit improvement support program makes low-cost financing again available to apartment building owners to undertake a variety of building improvements. So the city does have a number of the suite of things available, and I would certainly encourage you to review it and maybe bring it to the attention of your property management if there's an opportunity to get better systems there that are more effective, more efficient, and less difficult on the surrounding residents. Regulation. Right.
And I haven't even, sorry. Those programs are voluntary.
Right.
And there doesn't appear to be any pushback if they didn't go
Right.
that route. This is a $23 billion landlord, you've got to remember, yeah, they're pretty big. And, you know, all landlords right now, and they all belong to RealPAC, are all into financialization. So every penny, we've lost all of our on-site superintendents over, you know, bit by bit. The water pressure is now so low, it takes me an hour and a half to have a shower. So just generally what I'm looking for is is there something outside of that, regulations that go to maybe directly to the devices, like the heat pump,
Right.
which seem to be the flavor of the month
Mhm.
right now,
Mhm.
to say that they have to be warranted for so many years, for example? I mean, I don't know. I'm just, because I'm expecting, I'm sorry, I'm expecting a rather large AGI momentarily.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to have to deal with these things, but
Mhm.
we're dealing with these poor tenants who end up getting frozen out
Right.
without even any guarantee that they won't be renovicted, because they'll say, well, we have to kick you out in order to do the repairs because they're major.
Yeah.
It's frightening. So you're doing a
Absolutely.
dance.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Star. And I know it's a real challenge right now that we're navigating. And I think to James's point around some of the announcements that we've seen from the federal government, as a renter, I'm certainly heartened by some of the protections that the federal government is looking to put in place. But it is an area that we do need to continue to work and advocate and do better, because we're seeing just heartbreaking situations of renovictions, demevictions, and people being put out of their homes with no real alternatives. And that's really the scariest part. So it's something we'll continue to work around and work towards. And if anything else comes on our radar, we'll make sure to get the information across.
The only thing I was going to say is you wait. Yeah, yeah.
I finish off by saying, tenants are residents too.
Yeah.
And we are very much on side, the majority, I would say, a large majority, especially the ones along South Lakeshore, or Etobicoke Lakeshore, that we want to support climate change mandates and initiatives. And so, but we have to do it another way, through the back door. We have to pressure the powers that be, who are going to bring or not bring whatever we get. And unfortunately, the reasons for bringing climate change incentives have nothing to do with climate change. They want the money.
Well, okay, and that's what so the incentives that are out there are for people who have pride of ownership. What you're talking about is people who are motivated by profit. You're talking about somebody who owns this massive complex. That person is, well, not probably, the person's concerned about making sure that he makes money renting those units. So he's not going to go out and look for the best mechanism he can put in to heat the building. They're going to cut corners and find ways to, increase their profitability as opposed to increasing their energy efficiency. And so what you're really talking about at the end of the day is a landlord and tenant issue, and the government that is responsible for that issue has to find a mechanism to enforce rules on those landlords so that you're not sitting in a place that has inadequate heating or inadequate water. That story is horrible. But that's where the level of government responsible for landlord and tenant issues needs to come in and say, here are the rules, you got to follow them or there's consequences. Landlord and tenant issues, because look, with the affordability issues that we're facing right now, there's more and more renters. So these issues are going to escalate by number, and we need these rules in place to protect tenants so that they're not living those types of conditions you're talking about. But that's purely a landlord and tenant issue when you get right down to it.
Thank you. It's just want to make sure we get others.
Look,
Okay,
I don't
got
want
other questions
I don't
too,
want to
though.
get into a pointing fingers over there and over there. But what you just said is you're looking for the federal government to display a level of creativity to fill some of these gaps. We've done that with some measures we've introduced on the renoviction issue, which Amber alluded to. The announcements we made yesterday on the Tenants' Bill of Rights. These are the types of things where we're trying to nudge our way into an issue to try to address some of the concerns that you're talking about. you know, the federal government has to stay in its lane, but sometimes you can sort of find ways to navigate the road in a way where you can, you know, straddle the lanes, but still accomplish some of those things you're talking about. That, you know, that's what we're trying to do. We don't want to get into a jurisdictional bun fight because the goal is to try to help tenants, not to end up in Supreme Court of Canada fighting over who's got jurisdiction over what, right? So,
Wow.
but we're trying to do that, and we tried to do it on the, because home ownership, rental rights, these are the types of things where we're trying to step up and do that, trying to show that level of creativity you're craving for.
Thank you. Thank you, Arps, and thanks for asking that, sir. I really appreciate that. I'm a renter too. We have an online question, and then we'll go back to in person. So go ahead, Sandy, take it away with the online.
Hi, Tim. It's actually a question for me. So one of the topics we were here to talk about tonight is renovation, changing, making either minor or major renovations to a home, including things like installing heat pumps. Where are we going to get all of the trained experts? So, you know, the people who can do the design work and the people who are going to do the actual work. What are the programs that the city, the province, and the Fed have in mind to train that next generation of skilled workers? Thanks.
Thank you for the question. I will just highlight the comment that was brought forward in the notes earlier from someone who I advised that they do exactly that, is helping homeowners navigate the process. So I'll just do a call out for them and encourage you to check out that website, which I'm also going to do, and happy to share that as well with residents as appropriate. And again, I would point you to the Better Homes TO portion of our website, which is the one stop for Toronto residents to help make their homes more energy efficient and climate friendly. And you'll find a lot of important information at that link and on that site around how, why, and when to get an Enter Guide home evaluation, and the various home improvements you can make, including costs and things to look for. And then also, again, programs, incentives, and rebates to help you get started. Specific to your question on the tradespeople that are most appropriate, I'm not exactly sure if there's like a referral program or sort of a list of suggested tradespeople. But again, I would highly encourage you to tap into the Better Homes TO program, as well as check out the one that was flagged in the link. And again, I'm sorry, long day, already forgot. I think it's energyhome.ca or something. But lots of great information online. And I know, similar to all of our offices, if you give us a call directly, our teams are very happy to receive your call and help you navigate as required. So I would just leave it at that.
Thanks. Let's go to, yeah.
I can, yeah, I can speak to the trades issue as well. I mean, I think the Premier and the province has been pretty clear that we have a labor shortage in Ontario, and we're fighting every day to figure that one out. We have the Minister of Labor. We've invested millions of dollars into skilled trades training, skills development fund, as well as the Skilled Trades Ontario. They go school to school, trying to encourage kids to get into the trades. Obviously, there's an issue there and a huge gap, and we've put a lot of work into that. And I think, you know, within a few years, we're already starting to see the tides change. So it's great question. And you are right. We're building homes, you know, retrofitting, it requires trade skills, and we are going that way. So thanks.
Part of the question was, if you're going to have these programs, who's going to do the work, and you want to make sure you got qualified people to do the work. Excellent question. Gentleman in the back can probably help me out on this one too, because if you take the heat pump initiative, these home retrofits, when the program was rolled out, one component of the program was that there had to be certified people who were allowed to do it, so that you didn't have some guy coming up to your door and saying, I can put a heat pump in your attic, and you know, I can do it at half the price, and then you end up with bigger problems than you started with. So that was built into the program, so that there would be people out there who would be certified as deemed appropriate and qualified to do it in that particular program. But it's the type of process that should be used for all of these programs, so you don't end up in situations where you have unqualified people trying to do something to make a buck. But And then it gets to the point about skilled labor, because then you need enough people to do it. So back to the example of my next door neighbor, when he was putting a heat pump in, he called me and said, Jamie, and so I sent him the list of people who were certified and approved. He reached out, he got it done, but then these people were under such great strain because there was this, mad urgent demand, because these programs are time limited. So everybody wants to get in under the wire, and then you get into a crunch that way. But it's, again, it shows the effectiveness of the program, but you have to build in these consumer safety mechanisms to make sure that the right people are doing them as well.
Awesome. Thank you, all our representatives. We have a question in person. Here we go.
Good evening, neighbors and fellow members of the Mimico Residents Association I just joined. I'm not here to ask questions so much about the home renovations, what you can do, because my partner and I, we just completed some. And so I want to just say I'd like to be here as a resource. If any of you are considering talking about our experience replacing an old gas furnace and kind of creaky air conditioning unit with one single heat pump, and doing insulation of our bungalow that had maybe an R5, like the most minimum insulation, getting it up to R60. Literally an overnight change in terms of that. And we haven't yet experienced the summer, but it should keep our ceiling from acting as a radiator that we'd like to have had in the winter, but of course we only get it in the summer. So all that by way of saying, I think that the MRA could add to its resource list. There's probably others around the area who have had both good and bad experiences. Ours, fortunately, has been good. In part, I think that we received some good advice from energyneighbor.ca, the energy neighbor that I think they were on the online, and it's a free service, and they have recommended contractors and such. We had great contractors, and it was a big jump, but we knew that for us, it made a lot of sense because we're at the end of the life of our equipment. And, it's really different if your equipment's 6 or 7 years old. You might still get another 13, 14 years. But if you don't have that, and then we took advantage of the rebates. I mean, we are going to get the full 10,000, crossing our fingers, but I just want to say, be happy to discuss. My name's David. I'll stay a few minutes after, and we can, plan to do that. No, I don't want the extra chair, but I do recommend, and there's other services, I'm sure, besides energy. You can look, there's so much online. We did our research. It's difficult. It's not well organized. The different levels of government could probably talk to organizations like this. What is it you do? And think about ways to scale it up, because these are very good but small efforts. How can we get information to scale that's been vetted? And so on. And so let me leave it at that. But I do think that it's great that the MRA has taken this on.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions in the audience here? Yes.
Hi, just more about the Green Energy Home Program. I think that's what it was called. So I know that it was just defunded or exhausted. I did already apply and have my energy audit. Does that mean that I'm in the program or not? And yes, I want to talk to you.
If you got your application in while the program was still open, you are in the queue. And so that's actually an important component, because even the program has stopped, people who are in the queue, think of it this way: if you're in line to get in here and they close the door at 8 o'clock, once you're in line, they'll let all those people in. So you are in queue. So you're not shut out because you didn't get it done before the deadline. So if you're in the queue, you've had your energy audit, you will be processed.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions in person? Alex, any online?
Sorry, I was muted. No more questions online.
All right. Going once? Going twice? All right, great. Okay, well then I think that will wrap us up. So let me just get us to, if you could, yeah, thank you, Sandy. So as I said, we are going to put these in the resources tab on our website that we've put together for this. You're quite right. It is confusing. And even when we were talking to the different offices here, they were like, I'm not sure we have all those in one place. Like we have to put them together, which thank you for doing that for us. And we're going to keep it updated. We'll have the site here. There are flyers at the tables at the front with that link if you want to take one home, and we'll do that for you there. And please keep us up to date. So let us know. We'll get those there. If there are questions you have, that's what they're here for. And we're happy to also raise your questions where we can. We have the wrap-up slide, if you would, Alex.
Just before we get to that, Tim, do you mind if I take a second just to
Yeah.
show people what we've got with the resource ref?
Please do. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, just bear with me while I tab through all my tabs. What we've got right now is, just a Google Sheet spreadsheet, with topics, keywords, organization, link, and a short description. And all we've got here right now are things that we received from the City of Toronto. And we have, Mr. Maloney's promise and, Ms. Hogarth's promise that they'll get the resource list to us and we'll add them in there. What I did is took out all of the ones that I'd added, so that I had the official city, province and country of Canada ones in here. And I couldn't resist adding this list from Project Drawdown. And the one from Energy Neighbor that was talked about early today was news to me, and I love it, and I'll add that to this list. Now, what I want to do is get filters working better on this, and what I've got right now is the basic filtering where you can click on this document and learn how to use it. Because I'm hoping this gets to be a great big list and you need to be able to do filters to find what you're looking for. But it's a start, and we're going to continue to expand on it. And that's really all I had to say on it. Tim, back to you.
Great. Thanks for doing that, Sandy, and thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jim. Okay, we got a question. The question was, how do you access that? Love that question. You can see, thank you, Jamie. You can see the link here. Again, they're on the sheets of paper at the front. Do take one home with you if you want. But it's just bit.ly/green Mimico resources. It will also be on our website, mimicoresidence.ca. You'll be able to access it there. And like Alex was saying, we're going to keep it updated. So as we learn more, and I know we only had time to get the Toronto ones up so far before this, but I know we're getting them from Spencer and from James. So we'll add the other levels too. And if you find stuff that's not on there and you want us to add it, let us know. We're here to listen to our community as well. So yep, so it's right on the sheets. You'll be able to access those. All right, can you hit the next slide there, Alex? Brilliant. So this was the first of, we've been kind of calling it Green Mimico. We haven't got an official name, but there's interest in our community around building for the long term, sustaining our environment and our shared collective future that we have, which is on planet Earth for now, at least. So that means we got to take care of planet Earth. There's interest here. I'm very pleased with the turnout tonight. So we liked doing this event, and we would like to know if you're interested in doing more. So we had some suggestions for other topics we could cover. Transportation is a big one. Gentle density, district heating. There was talking about the net metering for community solar earlier. Lots of ideas. So we want to know if you are interested in more of these kinds of things. And if so, let us know. So we've got ways, if you want to hit the next slide there, to let us know about that. You can email us. It's just info@mimicoresidence.ca. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can message us there and just let us know your thoughts. There's also a little survey available. There you go. It's just Green Mimico Survey. So bit.ly/Green Mimico Survey. That'll be on the website too. Let us know how this event went. You know, we ain't perfect. We do our best, but we try and have fun and we try and be useful. That's what we do as a community group. So hopefully this was useful to you tonight. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad that you're all part of it. I think that's at the end. Did I miss anything, Alex?
Nice wrap up, Tim. Well done.
Great, we did it. We did it.
And people should feel free to mingle and discuss on the way out, but we have to vacate by 8:30. So have fun, but we have to be out of the building by 8:30.
Cool. So don't party too hard. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great night. Oh, and also, can I just get a quick thank you to the City of Toronto Library? Can I just get a round of applause for the library? Good, good. And a big thank you to our representatives. Thanks for coming out, guys. Appreciate it.
I'll just add my thank you to all three of our representatives. Thank you for making it out.
All right, I'm going to shut this down, Sandy. Thanks for this.
All right, take care. I'm gonna come up and help to put the chairs away, all right?